Now let's go ahead and actually spawn these pellets correctly. So right now we have a blueprint, so we can use the spawn actor function. One more thing to know is that you don't require tick over here. So if you just disable the start with tick enabled, it's going to improve performance slightly. Since the material itself isn't really relying on the tick, we can do that. Alright, so I'll just go ahead and create another blueprint, and this one I'm going to be calling it BP pellet spawner. So I guess my caps lock is on. So BP pellet spawner. Alright, and we can have some logic over here to spawn the pellets. Actually, if you didn't have any logic, you could actually go ahead and use the construction script to create hierarchical instance static mesh components. You can go ahead and research about that if you're curious. But since we have to spawn blueprints and not just static meshes, we can't use that. So we're going to use the begin play itself. So we'll just drag an instance of the pellet spawner in the world. So this is just like a global object basically. So we don't require tick for this as well, but since it's a single actor, it's fine. So what we'll do is we'll run a for loop. So for loop, and we'll have a couple of variables. The first variable is going to be numRows. So we can call this numRows, and this will be an integer of course, and we can also have number of columns. Alright, and what we require, since we are not going to be filling the entire grid, what we'll do is we'll also go ahead and have an excluded indices array. So what we can do is we can have excluded indices. So we require a range. So what we'll do is first of all we'll require two values. So we can call it exclude indices ranges. So these are the ranges that we'll exclude, and we'll call this an int point. So int point is the type. So basically it's two integers. So you have an x and a y basically. So there's x and there's a y over here. So that's basically what int point is, and this will be an array of int points. Alright, and now what we can do is once we have finished excluding, we'll also need the separation distance. So we can have row separation distance, and this will be a float. Make it a single variable, and next we'll also have the column separation distance, which will also be a float. So now we can go ahead and iterate through the number of rows. So we can have number of rows, so 0 up until number of rows minus 1, or we can do 1 up until numRows. And another thing that I would like to do is just have a vector 2D for the start location. So we can have start location. We'll have a 3D vector so that we can modify the z as well. So start location. So this is what we're going to have. We could use it as a reference, but we could use the actor itself as a reference, but we'll not do that. And inside this as well, we are going to have another for loop, and this will be for number of columns. And since we don't have anything else, I'll go ahead and use the indices and store a local variable here. But before that, I'll just expose each one of these on spawn. So instance editable, expose on spawn, and just repeat the same for each one of these. So instance editable and expose on spawn. You'll get to know why in a second. So instance editable, expose on spawn, instance editable and expose on spawn. Alright, and in each one of these we want to spawn an actor, and this will be a pellet. Alright, and the spawn transform is going to be based on the values which we have. So scale we can retain. So this is the row, so basically the I index, so the outer loop index. So that will be the x times the separation distance, of course, times the row separation distance plus the start location. So that will be the final location. So I'll just recombine that. So that will be the final location. And if we split this now, so this is going to be the x location, And for the actual y location, we are going to use this. So we'll again multiply this with the column separation distance this time. And now if I go ahead and put that into y, and the start location z will just keep it same as the z of this. So what I can do is I can keep this here, and I'll just go ahead and type in break, and I'll grab the z from this. So basically we are going to spawn it. Alright, let's go ahead and test it out. So right now, if I have my pellet spawner over here, so we can have 10 and 10 maybe just for testing purposes. And let's say we make this 100 and 100. And if I go ahead and simulate, I'm not sure where. Okay, so it's spawning it under that. So we can increase the z a little bit. So if we make z as 100, you see that we are going to get the grid over there. So now we can simplify the spawning process. And another thing that we'll have to do is we'll have to ensure that this excluded indices range is actually considered. So we can call a function called contains, and we can split the struct bin. So it should not contain this. So it should not contain this. Whoops. If it is not in the excluded ranges, only then we are going to spawn the actor. So if the excluded ranges contains this, so we are not going to have it. So we have to do a little more. So it's not just going to work. So we have ranges. So let's say I add this. So this is going to be int points actually. It's not going to be integers. So it's going to be array of, so each one of these is going to be an int point. So we need a struct of 2 int points so that we can actually give a range of indices. Alright, so we'll go ahead and create that. So go ahead and create a structure. Under content, you can go ahead and create a new folder called structures, or I can just do it under blueprints. So since we won't have much, I'll just do it in the blueprints. So blueprint structure, and I'm going to call it s underscore point range. Alright, you can call it whatever you want. So we are going to have 2 int points basically. So we'll have one int point over here. So this is going to be range start, and this is going to be the range end. Alright, so this is going to be an int point as well. Alright, so this is going to be not int point but s underscore point ranges. So change the variable type, doesn't really matter. And now if we go ahead and just get an index, if we split the struct bin, you see you get range start and range end, and this range start and range end both are int points. Let's just create a function and call it is excluded. So is excluded. So is excluded, and we are going to take in 2 integers as an argument. So that's going to be the row index and the column index. So it's going to be the row index as well as the column index. Oops, not in the outputs. So this will be the column index. Okay. So we have our excluded indices range. So we can iterate through this and check. So one logical error over here. So in this function itself, we had to check if this is actually going to be true, and only then we just return true. Otherwise we actually don't return. So otherwise we'll return false at the end. So otherwise this is going to cause a big problem. Alright, so this is going to be the corrected version now. Now just a small adjustment that I did in order to actually make it easier for us to select is, instead of manually selecting the indices, what I can do is I can just create a text over here, text render. So you can add a component, and over here I'm going to just put the x and y values, and I'll make it expose on spawn. So I'll make this variable expose on spawn. And now over here, if I go ahead and split my struct bin, I can pass in the x and the y coordinate. So then I'll have an idea of which ones to actually delete. So I can easily see the ranges. So now if I hit simulate, so over here I can clearly see which ones I have to remove and which ones do I have to not. So for example over here, so obviously the one which goes over here, I have to remove this. So this is going to be something comma 7. So it's going to be 4 comma 7. From 4 comma 7 up until 6 comma 8. So that is most definitely something that needs to be removed. So what we can do here is now we can head into the pellets banner and we can go ahead and add another set of indices. So I can select 4 comma 7 and 6 comma 8. And now if I go ahead and simulate, as you see, those won't exist. Another way which you can kind of reduce your work in this is you can also use a sphere trace. So what you can do is from the top you can just bounce a ray over here, so that if in case something is obstructing, the pellet should not spawn. So within a certain distance. So what I can do is, another thing that I can do is I can do sphere trace by channel. And what I'll do is plug this in. So only if this is false. If this is true, then obviously I'm not going to spawn it. So sphere trace, and the start and end is going to be some higher z value, and it's going to come all the way down. So that's basically what I want. So I want to get it to a z value which is slightly higher than the actual floor, so that it doesn't actually just hit the floor. So I'll just grab something like a point light and I'll press the end key to see what's the z coordinate. So it's 100. So I'll do it till 110. So the z value is going to be 110. So the end z value, and the start z value can be something like let's say 250. So basically, if this actually hits anything, we straight up won't spawn it. We can in fact do this check before, because this is going to be much more lighter than our actual check over here. So this is something that you can do. So I'll be using a combination of the two. Now over here as well we can have another branch, and we can check if we actually hit something. So here, if there was a hit, so what you can do is you can split this. If it's a blocking hit, in that case we'll not do anything. Only if it is not a blocking hit, then we'll check if it's excluded, and if it is not excluded, only then we'll spawn it. Alright, so now if I hit play, so I think all the corner pellets shouldn't actually spawn. So if it's still spawning, we can kind of see why. So this is a sphere trace, the radius is 0, that is probably why. So we can set the radius to something like 30. So now if I go ahead and do this, so you see that almost nothing is spawned. So we can reduce the radius slightly. So let's say we make this radius 10. So now we can check if it's going to occur. So it is not. So what we can do is we can draw debug type. So we can draw it for duration. So then we can see where the sphere trace is occurring. So I can't really see the sphere trace. So everything is occurring in one spot. The reason is the x and y is wrong. So that's my fault. So we can go ahead and split the struct bin, and start x is going to be this x value itself. So whatever we are plugging in, and the start y is going to be the same. End x and y as well is going to remain the same. So end x will be same as start x, and end y is going to be same as start y. Now if you go ahead and do it, so as you see, this is going to work out much better. But there may be a few places where it's not quite working out. So we can reduce the sphere radius, so it's 10 or whatever. So let's go ahead and check where it's actually hitting. So it's actually kind of misaligned. So I believe, okay, we have not added it to the start location. So we should actually take this location here, not the one coming from there. So we can go ahead and split the struct bin by calling break, and then x and y we can just drag it right there. Alright, Now this should give us a way better result. So as you see, our sphere traces are correct, and the ones which actually hit, they shouldn't spawn. But if you would notice, even others are not spawning. So if I were to just go ahead and hit this, so as you see, it is actually hitting. So we can raise it slightly up, because a radius of 10 would imply that our end is actually going to just barely touch the actual surface. So we can raise this a little bit up. So let's say 120 would be probably better. And I think now this is going to spawn it perfectly. So all the corner ones are almost gone. So there may be a few. So if I increase the radius, maybe it's going to get better. So I'll make this 130 now. So I'll increase the radius. So this is still spawning. This is kind of barely escaping. So we can make this 30, and I can make this one 135 maybe. Now if I go ahead and check this, so almost all the corners seems to have vanished. So none of the corners exist over here. Alright. So none of the corners exist, and we have excluded whatever is possible. So we'll just have a check over here. So everything seems to be fine. So we almost have no corners, and I guess that's about it. Only thing is, we probably have to exclude a few sections such as this, and we should be done. Alright guys, so that should be it for spawning the actual pellets. Now we can go ahead and stop this debug type. So we can set this debug type to none, and this should theoretically spawn the pellets correctly without that sphere debug trace. And now we can feel free to actually remove this text over here. That itself is actually going to be quite expensive in itself. So we'll delete that. And on top of that, what we can do is we can also go ahead and modify the material. This seems a little too bright for the scene. So we can go ahead, head into the pellet material. So if we head in, we should find m underscore pellet, which we created. So if we set this to something like 3 instead of 5, so it's not going to glow as brightly, but still does the job just fine. So 3, it's going to be bright enough so that we can see everything, and at the same time it's not really too intrusive.